The emergency session of the Terran Defense Council convened in the deep bunkers beneath Geneva. Admiral Park Hyejin stood at the head of the war table, surrounded by the military leaders of every nation on Earth. The holographic display showed the approaching alien fleet in terrifying detail. 200 ships, announced General Kim Won-ho, the Korean representative. Each one 10 times larger than our biggest vessel. They outnumber our entire fleet 5-1. Size isn't everything, replied Admiral Hyejin calmly. We've had 50 years to prepare for this exact scenario. Our ships are smaller but faster. Our weapons are designed for efficiency, not intimidation. Around the table, faces showed mixed emotions: fear, determination, and something else. Anticipation. Humanity had spent half a century wondering if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it wasn't friendly. What do we know about their intentions? Asked Dr. Lee Min-woo, the chief science advisor. Lieutenant Choi Jin-ae appeared on the communication screen from the UES Retribution. Admiral, we've broken their encryption. They're not even trying to hide their communications. They plan to eliminate all human life and claim Earth for colonization. Silence filled the room. Some of the older generals had lived through the last World War. They recognized the language of genocide when they heard it. No negotiations? Asked Ambassador Yu Hee-jung. None offered, Jin-ae replied. They refer to us as primitive infestation in their transmissions. They see us as animals to be cleared away. Admiral Hee-jin studied the tactical display. 50 years ago, when the first alien probe had been detected and subsequently lost contact, humanity had faced a choice. Hope the aliens were friendly, or prepare for the worst. The world's leaders had chosen preparation. Signal all defense stations, Hee-jin ordered. Implement Protocol 7, full defensive activation. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden preparations revealed themselves. What had appeared to be simple mining operations on asteroids suddenly bristled with weapon systems. Communication satellites transformed into sensor networks. Orbital platforms that had been disguised as scientific stations powered up military-grade shield generators. In the outer system, the hegemony fleet dropped out of hyperspace, exactly where human computers had predicted they would. Fleet Commander Rickson stood on his bridge, studying the primitive blue world ahead. Pathetic, he commented to his officers. They don't even have proper orbital defenses. This will be over quickly. His sensor officer looked confused. Sir, I'm reading some unusual signatures. More artificial objects than expected for a primitive species. Construction debris, Rickson dismissed. Primitive species often fill their orbital space with junk. Target the major population centers first. We'll clean up the debris afterward. What Rickson saw as debris was actually humanity's first line of defense. Automated weapon platforms disguised as space junk, sensor arrays hidden in fake asteroids, a network of defenses that had taken decades to build and position. On Earth, Captain Lee Dong-woo received his final orders from Admiral Hee-jin. Captain, you know your mission. Hold nothing back. Show them what 50 years of human engineering can accomplish. Understood, Admiral, Dong-woo replied. He turned to his crew. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we trained for. This is why we exist. Today we defend our home. The UES Retribution and her sister ships emerged from the shadow of Luna. They were smaller than the alien vessels, sleeker, built for speed and maneuverability rather than brute force. Each ship represented the pinnacle of human technology. Refined by decades of constant improvement, Commander Kim Tae-ho studied his tactical displays. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, following predictable patterns. They had never faced serious opposition before. They fight like they're on parade, he observed. Dr. Yoon Sora monitored the alien transmissions. Their communications are completely unencrypted. They're not even trying to maintain operational security. They think this is a routine extermination. The alien fleet began its approach to Earth. Fleet Commander Rickson opened communications to the planet below, broadcasting on all frequencies. Primitive species of Sol 3. His translated voice boomed across every radio and television on Earth. You are designated for removal by order of the Galactic Council. Your resistance is futile. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Lieutenant Choi Jin-ae responded for humanity. Her voice was calm, professional, and completely fearless. Unknown vessels, this is Earth Defense Command. You are entering sovereign human space without permission. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Laughter echoed across the alien communication channels. The idea that primitives would threaten them seemed hilarious to the hegemony commanders. Your planet will be sterilized within the hour. Rixon broadcast back. Your species ends today. Your funeral. Jin-ae replied simply. The first shots came from the alien fleet. Massive energy beams lanced out toward Earth's orbital platforms. The aliens expected to see the primitive defenses vaporize instantly. Instead, powerful shield generators absorbed the energy. Advanced armor plating deflected what got through. The orbital platforms not only survived the first salvo, they returned fire immediately. Fleet Commander Rixon stared in shock as his sensors registered impossible readings. The return fire was not primitive projectiles or crude explosives. These were advanced particle beams, plasma cannons, and kinetic projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed. How is this possible? He demanded of his science officer. Unknown, sir. The energy signatures suggest technology comparable to our own. This is not possible for a primitive species. On the Retribution's bridge, Captain Dong-Woo watched the alien formation begin to waver as they took unexpected damage. Now they know they're in a fight, he said quietly. Commander Taeho targeted the alien command ship with surgical precision. Firing solution locked. All weapons ready. Fire, Dong-Woo ordered. The UES Retribution unleashed 50 years of human innovation in a single devastating salvo. Railguns accelerated projectiles to incredible speeds. Plasma cannons superheated matter into devastating energy bursts. Missile systems launched projectiles that could adapt and maneuver around enemy defenses. The alien command ship's shields flickered and failed under the concentrated assault. Hull plating designed to resist conventional weapons proved inadequate. Against human engineering, secondary explosions rippled across the alien vessel as critical systems failed. Impossible! Fleet Commander Rixon shouted as his ship shuddered around him. These are supposed to be primitives. Dr. Yoon Sora monitored the battle from her position. Their weapons are powerful but inflexible, she reported. They're designed to fight other ships exactly like their own. They can't adapt to our tactics. Around Earth, the battle raged with an intensity no one had expected. The aliens had anticipated overwhelming firepower against defenseless prey. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that matched their technology and exceeded their tactical flexibility. Human ships darted between the larger alien vessels like angry hornets. They struck at weak points, disrupted formations, and disappeared before return fire could lock onto them. The aliens fought like they were conducting a formal military exercise. The humans fought like their species depended on it, because it did. Captain Dong-Woo coordinated the defense with the calm efficiency of someone who had trained for this moment his entire career. Taeho, target their communication arrays. Sora, analyze their shield patterns. Jin-ae, monitor their fleet communications. The battle had barely begun, but already the alien fleet was discovering that their easy conquest had become a desperate fight for survival. Humanity had not spent 50 years preparing to be victims. They had spent 50 years preparing to win, and they were just getting started. The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with the usual sounds of 1,000 different species talking at once. Kethvar the Mediator stood at the center podium, his forearms moving as he sorted through data tablets. His insect-like face showed no emotion as he prepared to present another routine report about newly discovered worlds. Next item, Kethvar announced, his voice carrying across the massive chamber. Planet designation Sol 3, third rock from a yellow star. Local species. Calls it Earth. A few council members looked up from their private conversations. Most continued their side discussions about trade routes and territorial disputes. New species reports were common and rarely interesting. High Regent Vostal shifted his massive, reptilian form on his seat. His scales gleamed under the chamber lights as he leaned forward. Another primitive world, I assume. Correct, Kethvar replied, activating the holographic display. A blue and green planet appeared in the air above them. The dominant species calls themselves humans, carbon-based bipeds, average height 1.7 meters, lifespan roughly 80 standard years. Ambassador Nelthara floated nearby, her energy-based form shimmering with mild curiosity. What is their technological level? Kethvar consulted his notes. Primitive projectile weapons, basic chemical rockets. They have split the atom, but only for crude explosive devices. They cannot even leave their own star system consistently. A few council members chuckled. Fleet Commander Rixon tapped his claws on his armrest. Sounds like another resource extraction opportunity. What does the world offer? Large water reserves, diverse biological specimens, rich mineral deposits in the crust. The planet would be quite valuable once cleaned of the native infestation. Counselor, Yethmai, one of the younger members, studied the data more carefully. Something felt wrong to her, but she could not identify what. When were these observations taken? Kethvar barely glanced at the timestamp. Recent survey data, of course. He did not mention that the probe had malfunctioned decades ago. The data was old, but who would check such details for a primitive world? High Regent Vostal stood up, his 2-meter height making him tower over nearby council members. I volunteer the hegemony fleet for this operation. My warriors need practice, and these humans sound like barely evolved animals. It will be good training. Excellent, Kethvar agreed. How many ships will you need? Vostal laughed, a sound like grinding stone. 200 warships should be more than enough to handle whatever these primitive apes can throw at us. My commanders report they are constantly fighting each other with sticks and crude metal weapons. Ambassador Nelthara's form flickered with concern. Perhaps we should attempt communication first. Standard first contact protocols suggest. Protocols are for species with potential, Vostal interrupted. These humans have shown no signs of advancement beyond basic tool use. They wage war on their own kind constantly. They pollute their own world. They are a failed species that needs removal. Other council members nodded in agreement. Failed? Species were common throughout the galaxy. Most destroyed themselves before developing space travel. Those that survived usually became useful worker populations after proper conditioning. Yethmai looked at the data again. Something about the timeline bothered her, but she hesitated to challenge senior council members. She was still new to galactic politics and did not want to seem foolish. The decision is made then, Kethvar announced. High Regent Vostal will lead a standard subjugation fleet to Sol 3, eliminate the human population and prepare the world for colonization. Are there any objections? Silence filled the chamber. Even Ambassador Nelthara said nothing more. The decision seemed routine to most present. Meeting adjourned, Kethvar declared. As council members filed out, Yethmai approached the data display. She studied the timestamp more carefully. Her blood ran cold as she realized the truth. The data was 53 years old. The probe had stopped transmitting decades ago, but no one had noticed the gap in surveillance. 53 years was a long time for any species, especially one in rapid development. But Yethmai kept her discovery to herself. She was too junior to challenge such an important decision. Surely the senior members knew what they were doing. Meanwhile, in a distant star system, Captain Li Dongwu sat in his command chair aboard the UES Retribution. The ship floated in the shadow of Luna, hidden from casual observation. Around him, his bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. Captain, Lieutenant Choi Jin-ae called from the communications station. We're receiving priority signals from Earth Command. Put it through, Dongwu replied. Admiral Park Hee-jin's face appeared on the main screen. Her expression was grim. Captain, our deep space sensors have detected massive gravity distortions approaching the outer system. Multiple ships, probably. 200 or more. They're coming fast. Commander Kim Tae-ho looked up from his tactical station. Finally, after 50 years of preparation, someone decided to visit. Dr. Yoon So-ra turned from her science station. The gravitational signatures don't match anything in our databases. Definitely alien technology, much larger than our ships. Dongwu nodded calmly. Since the first alien probe had been detected decades ago, humanity had prepared for this moment. They had assumed the aliens would return eventually. They had built defenses, improved weapons, and trained for war against an unknown enemy. How long until they arrive? Dongwu asked. Approximately 6 hours, Yoon So-ra reported. Signal all defense platforms, Dongwu ordered. Activate the orbital weapons grid. Bring our fleet to full combat readiness. Around Earth's system, humanity's preparations became visible. Hidden bases revealed themselves. Asteroid fortresses powered up their weapons. A fleet of warships that should not exist emerged from concealment. Jin'e monitored alien communications as they approached. Captain, I'm picking up their transmissions. They're not even trying to hide their intentions. They plan to sterilize the entire planet. Good, Dongwu said quietly. That makes our response much simpler. Taeho smiled grimly as he checked his weapons systems. 50 years of paranoid preparation had turned humanity into something the aliens would not expect. Earth was no longer a helpless world of primitive creatures. It had become a fortress, and its defenders were ready for war. In the hegemony fleet, Fleet Commander Rixon studied his tactical displays. The approaching blue world looked exactly as described in the briefings. Primitive, defenseless, easy prey. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're detecting some artificial satellites around the planet, probably communication devices. Rixon barely paid attention. Primitive species often had simple satellites. They would be easily destroyed along with everything else. Prepare the cleansing bombardment, Rixon ordered. I want this finished. Quickly. High Regent Vostal expects a full report within the day. His fleet moved toward Earth like a predator approaching wounded prey. 200 warships against a single primitive world seemed almost unfair. But orders were orders, and Rixon had never failed to complete a mission. On Luna Base, Dr. Yoon So-ra watched the approaching fleet through her sensors. They have no idea what they're flying into, she said softly. Captain Dongwu activated fleet communications. All ships, this is Retribution Actual. Remember your training. Remember why we built all this. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten Earth. The stage was set. Two different species with completely different expectations were about to meet. One expected an easy victory over primitives. The other had spent 50 years preparing for exactly this moment. The Galactic Council's nightmare was about to begin. The battle for Earth had been raging for 2 hours, and Fleet Commander Rixon could no longer deny the terrible truth. His fleet was losing. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being systematically destroyed by vessels half their size. Report, he barked at his tactical officer, his reptilian features twisted with rage and confusion. We've lost 47 ships, sir. The humans have lost only 12. Their vessels are faster than our computers can track. Their weapons punch through our shields like they don't exist. Rixon slammed his fist on the command console. How are primitives doing this to us? On the bridge of the UES Retribution, Captain Lee Dongwu remained calm despite the chaos surrounding his ship. Alien fire lit up space around them, but Commander Kim Taeho's tactical skills kept them one step ahead of destruction. Evasive Maneuver 7, Dongwu ordered. The ship twisted away from incoming fire, while simultaneously launching a spread of missiles at 3 different alien targets. Their shield frequency is shifting, Dr. Yoon So-ra reported from her station, but I've isolated the pattern. Adjusting our weapons accordingly. Lieutenant Choi Jin-ae monitored the alien communications. Captain, they're starting to panic. Multiple ships are requesting permission to retreat. Denied by their command, Dongwu noted. Their military structure is too rigid. They can't adapt when their original plan fails. This was exactly what 50 years of human military evolution had predicted. Most alien species achieved space travel through cooperation and careful planning. They fought wars with discipline and predetermined strategies. Humans had achieved space travel while constantly fighting each other. They were used to chaos, adaptation, and desperate improvisation. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency. Alarms wailed as real-time reports from the battle reached them. Kethvar the Mediator watched in horror as his carefully planned conquest turned into a disaster. "This is impossible," he repeated for the 10th time. The data showed primitives, with crude weapons. Counselor Yethami finally found the courage to speak. The data was 53 years old. The probe stopped transmitting decades ago. Silence fell over the chamber like a physical weight. 53 years of unobserved development. For a species already advancing rapidly, it might as well have been centuries. "Get me High Regent Vostal immediately," Kethvar commanded. On the hegemony homeworld, Vostal received the emergency transmission in his war room. His massive form filled the communication screen as he processed the impossible news. "What? Do you mean the fleet is losing?" he roared. "It's 200 warships against primitive apes with sticks." "The humans have advanced far beyond our observations," Kethvar explained weakly. "Their technology appears to match or exceed our own." "Impossible." Vostal slammed his claws into the metal table, leaving deep gouges. "I refuse to believe. That vermin could threaten the hegemony." Back in Earth's orbit, the battle reached its turning point. The UES Retribution had penetrated deep into the alien formation, causing chaos wherever it appeared. Other human ships followed similar tactics, turning the aliens' numerical advantage into a liability. "Their formation is collapsing," Commander Tejo reported with satisfaction. "They're so worried about hitting their own ships that they can't coordinate their fire." Captain Dongwu opened communications with Admiral Park Hyejin. "Admiral, recommend we begin Phase 2 of the operation." "Agreed." Hyejin's voice came through clearly despite the battle raging around them. "Show them what happens when you threaten human children." Phase 2 was the part of humanity's plan that even their own leaders had hoped would never be necessary. It involved taking the fight to the enemy's territory. Every human ship carried enough firepower and supplies for extended operations far from Earth. "Tejo, target their largest remaining ship," Dongwu ordered. "Full spread, maximum power." The alien dreadnought that served as Rixon's flagship was twice the size of any human vessel. Its shields could absorb tremendous punishment, and its armor was designed to resist weapons that could shatter planets. The UES Retribution's weapons were not designed to shatter planets. They were designed to kill other ships as efficiently as possible. The concentrated fire from humanity's most advanced warship found weak points that alien engineers had never considered. Shield generators overloaded. Hull plating designed to resist energy weapons proved vulnerable to kinetic projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. Fleet Commander Rixon felt his ship dying around him. "All ships retreat. Retreat to hyperspace." But retreat required coordination, and coordination required communication. Lieutenant Choi Jin-ae had spent the last hour systematically jamming alien communication frequencies. Half the fleet never received the retreat order. Those ships that did try to retreat found themselves pursued by human vessels that seemed to anticipate their every move. Dr. Yoon Sora had been analyzing alien technology throughout the battle. She now understood their hyperspace systems better than their own engineers did. "Intercept course plotted," she reported to Captain Dongwu. "I know where they're running." "Follow them," Dongwu ordered without hesitation. It's time to return. Their visit. The surviving alien ships jumped to hyperspace expecting to escape to safety. They emerged at their rally point to find human ships waiting for them. Impossible as it seemed, the primitives had tracked them through hyperspace and arrived first. The final phase of the battle was more of a massacre than a fight. Alien ships designed for conquest found themselves hunted by vessels built for war. The few survivors who managed to escape carried tales of horror back to the Galactic Council. In the council chambers, Kethvar watched his carefully ordered universe collapse. Out of 200 ships sent to eliminate a primitive threat, fewer than 20 had returned. The reports they brought made no sense. "They followed us through hyperspace," one captain reported. "They knew where we were going before we did. Their ships move like living things. Their weapons adapt to our defenses in real time." Ambassador Nelthara's energy form flickered with distress. "Perhaps we should consider negotiations." With primitives? Vostal's transmission crackled with rage. Never. I will mobilize the entire hegemony fleet. 5,000 ships will crush these insects. Sir, Counselor Yethmai interrupted carefully. Maybe we should reconsider. They defeated 200 of our best ships. They got lucky, Vostal snarled. Luck will not save them from the full might of the hegemony. On Earth, the celebration was brief. Captain Dongwu stood in Admiral Hyejin's office, studying star charts of the local galactic region. They'll be back, Hyejin said simply. And they'll bring more ships. Good, Dongwu replied. We've had 50 years to prepare for the first wave. Now we know what we're fighting. Dr. Yoon's team has already begun adapting their technology for our use. Through the office windows, they could see the orbital shipyards working at maximum capacity. Humanity's industrial base had been geared for war production since the alien probe was first detected. Now that the enemy had revealed themselves, production would increase exponentially. How long until they return? Dongwu asked. Intelligence estimates 6 months to 2 years, depending on how many ships they commit, Hyejin replied. They'll probably try to bring overwhelming numbers. Then we have time to prepare a proper welcome, Dongwu said with a smile that would have terrified any alien who saw it. In the depths of space, human ships began long-range patrols into previously unknown territory. The defense of Earth was complete, but humanity's war for survival had only just begun. The galaxy was about to learn why it was dangerous to threaten a species that had spent its entire existence fighting. 6 months after the first battle, the Galactic Council faced a crisis unlike anything in their recorded history. Species that had been allies for centuries now questioned every decision. Panic spread through civilized space as reports of human capabilities reached every world. Counselor Yethmai stood before the emergency assembly, her hands trembling as she read the latest intelligence reports. The humans have not remained passive since our attack. Long-range sensors detect their ships moving through our territory. They appear to be mapping our worlds, our trade routes, our military installations. High Regent Vostal's massive form dominated the communication screen from his homeworld. Let them come. My fleet of 5,000 ships is ready. These primitive creatures will face the full might of the hegemony military. Sir? Kethvar the mediator interrupted carefully. Perhaps we should consider other options. The humans have proven more capable than initially assessed. Cowardice, Vostal roared. The hegemony has never retreated from inferior species. We will crush them completely. Ambassador Nelthara floated nearby, her energy form flickering with worry. What if they're not inferior? What if we made a terrible mistake? The question hung in the air like poison gas. For millennia, the Galactic Council had maintained order through superior technology and overwhelming force. The idea that a newly discovered species could challenge that order was unthinkable. In the outer regions of Council space, Captain Li Dongwu commanded a small fleet of human reconnaissance vessels. The UES Retribution moved silently through an asteroid field, its advanced sensors mapping every military installation in the system. Fourth planet shows significant military infrastructure, Dr. Yoon So-ra reported. Orbital weapon platforms, fleet staging areas, supply depots. This appears to be a major logistics hub. Commander Kim Tae-ho studied the tactical display. Heavily defended, probably 500 ships in system, plus fixed defenses. Standard Galactic Council formation, observed Lieutenant Choi Jin-ae. Predictable defensive patterns. They still haven't adapted their tactics to account for our capabilities. Captain Dongwu made his decision with characteristic calm. Signal the fleet. Begin attack pattern Delta. Target their command structures first. The human attack began, without warning. Ships that the aliens couldn't see until it was too late emerged from the asteroid field. Advanced stealth technology, refined during humanity's long preparation, made the human vessels nearly invisible until they opened fire. The first salvo destroyed the system's communication arrays. The second eliminated their sensor networks. By the time the alien defenders realized they were under attack, half their command structure was already gone. Commander Tejo coordinated the assault with surgical precision. Primary targets eliminated. Secondary objectives coming into range. The alien fleet tried to respond, but their rigid command structure worked against them. Without clear orders from their commanders, individual ship captains hesitated to act. Human ships exploited this hesitation ruthlessly. Dr. Yoon Sora monitored alien communications as panic spread through their ranks. They're requesting reinforcements from 6 different systems. Their distress calls are becoming increasingly desperate. Let them call, Captain Dongwu replied. Admiral He Jin wants them to know we can strike anywhere, anytime. The battle lasted only 3 hours. When it ended, the hegemony's major logistics hub was a burning ruin. Human ships disappeared back into deep space before reinforcements could arrive, leaving behind a clear message. Nowhere in Council space was safe. On the hegemony homeworld, High Regent Vostal received the report with growing fury. How many ships did they use? 12, sir, his intelligence officer replied nervously. 12 human vessels destroyed an entire system's defenses and eliminated 500 of our ships. Vostal's roar of rage could be heard throughout his palace. Impossible. No species can achieve such results with so few ships. But the reports kept coming. Human ships appeared throughout Council space like ghosts, striking at military targets with devastating efficiency. They never stayed to occupy territory, never attempted to hold ground. They simply destroyed everything of military value and vanished. In the Galactic Council chambers, the emergency session had been running for days. Kethvar the Mediator looked exhausted as he read the latest casualty reports. 17 systems attacked, 3,000 ships destroyed. Military infrastructure across 5 sectors severely damaged. He paused, barely able to believe his own words. All accomplished by human forces numbering fewer than 100 ships. Counselor Yuthmai had found her voice at last. We must attempt negotiations. These humans are clearly not the primitives we believe them to be. Never. High Regent Vostal's communication crackled with static as his rage interfered with the transmission. The hegemony does not negotiate with inferior species. What if they're not inferior? Ambassador Nelthara asked quietly. What if they're more advanced than we are? The suggestion was heresy to everything the Galactic Council believed about itself. They were the advanced species. They were the civilized ones. They brought order to primitive worlds through superior technology and military might. I refuse to accept such nonsense, Vostal declared. My fleet departs tomorrow. 5,000 ships will end this problem permanently. On Earth, Admiral Park Hye-jin reviewed the latest intelligence from Captain Dongwu's reconnaissance missions. The strategic situation was clear. The aliens were preparing for a massive assault. 5,000 ships, she mused, studying the tactical projections. They're committing everything to this attack. Her staff officers looked concerned. Even with their technological advantages, those were overwhelming numbers. Recommendations? Hee-jin asked. General Kim Won-ho activated the strategic display. We have 3 options. Defend Earth with everything we have. Attempt to intercept them before they reach our system. Or take the fight to their homeworld while their fleet is committed elsewhere. Admiral Hye-jin studied the options carefully. 50 years of preparation had taught humanity important lessons about warfare. The best defense was often a strong offense. We take their homeworld, she decided. Captain Dongwu's intelligence reports show their planet is nearly defenseless with the fleet deployed. If we can force them to surrender, we avoid a massive battle in our own system. The plan was audacious beyond anything the Galactic Council could imagine. While their massive fleet prepared to assault Earth, humanity would strike at the heart of the hegemony itself. Captain Dongwu received his orders with quiet satisfaction. Finally, time to show them what happens when you threaten human families. The UES Retribution led a small fleet toward the hegemony homeworld. Only 30 ships accompanied the mission, but each one represented the pinnacle of human military technology. Weapons that could adapt to any defense, sensors that could track enemies through hyperspace, engines that could outrun anything the aliens possessed. As the human fleet approached its target, High Regent Vostal's massive armada departed for Earth. 5,000 ships, the largest military force ever assembled by the Galactic Council. Surely nothing could stand against such overwhelming power. Both forces would soon discover how wrong that assumption was. In the depths of space, humanity prepared to demonstrate the most important lesson their species had learned. The best way to end a war was to win it so completely that no one would dare start another one. The galaxy was about to witness human warfare at its most devastating. The hegemony homeworld had never seen war. For 1,000 years, it had been the center of military power that projected force across the galaxy. Its orbital defenses were designed to intimidate rather than actually fight. Its population had never experienced the terror of battle. Captain Lee Dongwu studied the planet through the UES retribution sensors. Massive cities spread across 3 continents. Billions of civilians who had no idea their military was attempting genocide against humanity. 30 ships against an entire world, Commander Kim Tae-ho observed. The odds would have scared our ancestors. Our ancestors didn't have 50 years to prepare for this exact moment, Dr. Yoon So-ra replied from her station. She had been analyzing hegemony technology for months. Their defenses were impressive but predictable. Lieutenant Choi Jin-ae monitored planetary communications. They know we're here. Emergency broadcasts are going out across the planet. They're calling for their fleet to return. Too late, Captain Dongwu said calmly. Their fleet is already committed to attacking Earth. They can't recall it without looking weak to the entire galaxy. The human fleet moved into attack formation. Each ship positioned itself at precise coordinates calculated by Earth's most advanced computers. They were not here to destroy cities or kill civilians. They were here to end a war. Begin Phase 1, Captain Dongwu ordered. Human ships opened fire on military targets only. Orbital defense platforms that had never been tested in real combat proved inadequate against weapons designed by a species that understood warfare intimately. Shield generators overloaded. Weapon systems failed under precise strikes. In his palace, High Regent Vostal received the impossible reports with growing panic. How many human ships are attacking us? 30, sir, his aide replied. But they're destroying our defenses faster than we can coordinate a response. Vostal's massive claws scraped furrows in his desk. 30 ships cannot conquer an entire world. It's impossible. Sir, they're not trying to conquer us. They're systematically destroying every military installation in the system. Our orbital shipyards are gone. Our weapon manufacturing plants are burning. Our fleet bases are rubble. The tactical genius of the human strategy became clear. They were not trying to occupy territory or kill populations. They were eliminating the hegemony's ability to wage war. Every target was carefully chosen for maximum strategic impact with minimum civilian casualties. Dr. Yoon So-ra coordinated the assault with scientific precision. Military communications hub destroyed. Fleet command center eliminated. Weapon research facility neutralized. Commander Tae-ho managed the tactical display. All primary objectives complete, moving to secondary targets. The secondary targets were even more devastating to hegemony military power. Fuel depots that supplied their fleet. Manufacturing centers that produced their weapons. Training facilities that prepared their soldiers. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency reports flooded in from across Council space. The hegemony homeworld was under attack. The humans had somehow bypassed the massive fleet sent to destroy Earth and struck at the heart of galactic military power. Kethvar, the mediator's voice, shook as he read the latest updates. Hegemony military infrastructure is being systematically destroyed. Production capacity reduced by 70% in 6 hours. Counselor Yethmai finally spoke the truth everyone was afraid to voice. We underestimated them completely. These humans are not primitives. They're more advanced than we are. Ambassador Nelthara's energy form flickered with distress. We must stop this before it escalates further. The humans are demonstrating remarkable restraint by avoiding civilian targets. If we push them too far, they might not continue to show such mercy. On the hegemony homeworld, civilian populations huddled in their homes as the sky burned above them. But strangely, no attacks came against non-military targets. The humans seemed to know exactly which buildings contained soldiers and which contained families. High Regent Vostal finally faced the truth his pride had refused to accept. His species was losing a war against an enemy they had dismissed as primitive animals. "Open communications to the human fleet," he ordered reluctantly. Captain Dongwu's face appeared on screens throughout the Hegemony Command Center. His expression was calm, professional, and utterly without mercy. "You wish to communicate?" Dongwu asked politely. "What are your demands?" Vostal forced the words out through clenched teeth. "Unconditional surrender of all Hegemony military forces, immediate recall of your fleet from Earth, complete withdrawal from human space, recognition of humanity as a sovereign species with full diplomatic rights." "Impossible," Vostal roared. "The Hegemony does not surrender to inferior species." "Then, your military installations will continue to be destroyed until you change your mind," Dongwu replied calmly. "We have identified 847 military targets on your world. So far, we have eliminated 312 of them." The transmission ended. Human ships continued their systematic destruction of Hegemony military power. Vostal watched his 1,000-year empire crumble in real time. Meanwhile, in Earth's solar system, the massive Hegemony fleet finally arrived to find a very different reception than expected. Admiral Park Hai-jin had used the time well. Earth's defenses had been upgraded with captured alien technology. The orbital platforms were stronger. The fleet was larger. The weapons were deadlier. But more importantly, the human defenders had something their enemies lacked. They were fighting for their homes. The battle for Earth lasted 18 hours. 5,000 alien ships faced a defense network designed by paranoid engineers and operated by desperate defenders. Human tactics evolved during the battle, adapting to each alien strategy faster than the enemy could adjust. When the smoke cleared, fewer than 300 alien ships remained. The rest were debris scattered across the solar system. Admiral Hai-jin's forces had taken losses, but Earth remained safe. The final transmission came from High Regent Vostal as he watched his homeworld's last military installation burn. I surrender. Hegemony forces will withdraw from human space immediately." Captain Dongwu accepted the surrender with characteristic professionalism. "Wise choice. Dr. Yoon will provide you with the terms of the ceasefire." The terms were simple but comprehensive. The Galactic Council would recognize humanity as an equal species. Human space would be considered sovereign territory. Any future aggression against humanity would result in immediate retaliation against the aggressor's homeworld. Most importantly, humanity would have a permanent seat on the Galactic Council, with veto power over any military actions. The war that was supposed to eliminate humanity had instead elevated them to galactic leadership. The species that had been dismissed as primitive animals had proven themselves the most effective military force in known space. 10 years later, Ambassador Choi Jin'ei sat in the Galactic Council chambers, now relocated to Luna for security reasons. She represented humanity in an organization that had learned to fear and respect human capabilities. Captain Lee Dongwu, now Admiral Dongwu, commanded the Galactic Defense Force. His ships patrolled the spaceways, ensuring that no species would again attempt genocide against their neighbors. The UES Retribution had been retired to a place of honor above Earth, a monument to humanity's emergence from obscurity to galactic leadership. Its name had become legendary throughout civilized space. Counselor Yethmai, now Speaker for Non-Human Species, often reflected on how close the galaxy had come to disaster. If the humans had been slightly less capable, they would have been exterminated. If they had been slightly less merciful, they might have responded with genocide of their own. Instead, they had chosen to become the guardians of galactic peace. The species that had been marked for death had become the protectors of life throughout the galaxy. The nightmare of the Galactic Council was over. But everyone understood that humanity's emergence from darkness had changed the galaxy forever. The apex predators who had once stalked primitive worlds now answered to a species that had turned warfare into an art form. And in the depths of space, human ships continued their patrols, ensuring that the galaxy's nightmare would never return to threaten the innocent again. Peace, it turned out, was best maintained by those who understood the true cost of war.